Stellar Life, mission log number 249.
The first time I held a group program, you know how many people signed up? 0. And I ran to bed. I pulled the covers over my head. I didn't want to come out for like 2 days. I ate a lot of Ben and Jerry's. Like I just was beating myself up, telling myself what a loser I was. And then this is why I love purpose so much. I took a deep breath and I'm like, okay, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And it was, I believe I have something that women need. I want to make a difference in women's lives. And so I would come back to that bigger purpose. And I came back to, I want to prove to myself that I can do it, and I want to know that I at least tried. And so I put myself back together. And the next time I ran a group program, you know how many people signed up? 0 again. And I had to go through the same process all over again and just keep going, okay, this is for purpose and you can handle it. And it's like learning that I can put myself out there, I can be rejected, and I'm not going to die.
Welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. Get inspired and live out loud. From love, freedom, and success to having it all. Here's your host, coach, speaker, and shining star, Orion.
Roger, you're looking good.
Hello and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. This is your host, Orion. I am so excited because this next episode is the bomb. It was so much fun. I feel like I know this guest from previous lifetimes. She's like a part of my soul circle. We think alike in many ways. We teach similar things, but in different ways. And she is a rock star and so much fun to talk to. And you're going to learn a lot. You're going to get a lot out of this episode today. And it's going to brighten up your day and it's going to make you feel great and give you some really powerful tools to elevate your state and elevate your life and refocus on your purpose. Carin Rockind is a positive psychology expert, powerful motivational speaker, and caring coach who empowers people to pursue their dreams and bring their best selves to work and life. She's also the founder of Women's Global Happiness Day, empowering thousands of women worldwide. She has been featured on Martha Stewart Radio, Cosmopolitan Radio, CBC, PBC, and was known as the happiness guru on SiriusXM Wake Up with Taylor. She currently the host of the popular podcast, The Purpose Girl. And now, without further ado, on to the show.
2, 1, 0.
Hey, Carin, and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited to have you on the show because I just love what you do.
I'm so happy to be here, Orion. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Before we begin, can you share a little bit about your life's journey and how you found your purpose and passion?
Sure. So I was like probably a lot of people listening to this, or like the majority of the people, where I had no idea what my purpose was. Actually, when I was young, my parents had been married basically since they were 14. I mean, literally, they've been married since they were 21, like for, 55 years. And my grandparents, may they rest in peace, have been married 68 years. And all I wanted was get married, right? And he should be like a doctor or a lawyer. And we would have this nice house in the burbs and everything would be great. And that would be life. And I would be happy. And so in college, I actually found my husband. He was tall, 6'2", dark hair. He was going to be a lawyer. And we were going to have the life. And I had that. We were 24 years old. We moved into a big suburban house with this huge yard that was like, I couldn't even, like a football field. And we had a golden retriever and we made Thanksgiving dinner and like everything looked perfect. And for some reason, Orion, I was so unhappy. Like I would cry all the time.
Wow.
All the time. And my husband would be like, what's wrong with you? We have everything, right? This was everything that we had wanted. We had like season football tickets and we had beer in the fridge and we had friends. And I really thought something was wrong with me because I felt so ungrateful and, what is wrong with me? And so I ended up getting divorced at 26 and just saying like, I did not feel like I was in the right life. And I went on this journey to say, well, if that didn't make me happy, right? Like what Cosmopolitan magazine said would make me happy and what traditional wisdom said would make me happy, then what would? And what kept coming to me was the word purpose. It's like, I didn't even know what my purpose was. I just felt like I'm here for something, right? Like I want to make a difference. I want to do something. But the journey to figure out my purpose was like convoluted. I couldn't figure it out. I didn't have a mentor. This is 20 years ago. It was a long time ago. I'm like, I don't even know where to start. And so one of the first things I did was I started volunteering with high school girls, not to find my purpose, but just to have something to do because I was divorced then, right? And a lot of our friends were married to each other. And when working with these high school girls, I was working with a Jewish youth group that I actually had been in when I was a kid. And these teenage girls were like so excited about life. And many of them so hard on themselves, right? Like felt like they weren't smart enough. They were perfectionists. Am I going to get into the right college? I didn't get the right grades. They had anxiety disorders, eating disorders, hated their bodies. I mean, and it was like, I was looking at them and all I could see, Orion, was how beautiful and perfect they were. Like every single one of them. And in each one of them, I could see how special and unique she was. And I'm like, no, don't you see, Orion? You're like so creative and everybody wants you to make the posters for the event, you know? And it was just like, I could just see them. And I felt this excitement in my body that I hadn't felt maybe in my whole life or in many, many years. And at the same time, I started messaging online with other divorced women because all my friends were married or getting married and starting to have babies. And the next thing you know, they made me the leader of the group because in this online message board thing, because I was constantly telling everybody, we're going to be great. We can do this. We got this. We're going to be awesome. And so my whole life became girls and women's empowerment without knowing that it was a thing. And I felt so alive. I felt so excited that I'm like, this is purpose. This is the deep happiness, not just the frivolous joy, like the frivolous happiness, but this is deep joy that I felt. So I then realized, okay, this is my purpose, but actually then turning that into a career, I didn't know how. People would say, you want to be Oprah? I'm like, I do want to be Oprah. I mean, we all want to be Oprah a little bit, right? But how do you become Oprah? Like back then, there were no podcasts. There was no YouTube. Like, what is this? And I couldn't figure out the path. And so I actually became depressed. I gave up. I went back to bigger and bigger jobs in corporate. I went back to men that were just like my first husband, you know, another lawyer, another BMW, you know, another golf shirt, totally the wrong guy. And then one day, like, I just kept, like, I was so depressed. And one day I was walking home from a bad blind date. And I was living in Cleveland, Ohio at the time, and it was night. And I was talking to my sister on the phone, and we were laughing about this guy I had been on a date with and how awful it was. She lived in California, and I go to put my key in the condominium door, and I suddenly felt hot breath on my neck. And I turn around, and this really young man, a kid really, was standing basically on top of me. And I looked at him in the eyes. He had these like really big black eyes. And I said, are you going inside? I thought maybe he had a friend or an aunt who lived in the building. And he looked into my eyes, Orion. And then he looked down at my belly and he pulled a gun.
Wow.
I screamed. I fell to the floor. Hands are now over my head. I'm going, please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me. And I look up and now the gun is pointed at my left temple. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is it. I'm going to die. And I had like moments of my life flash in front of me, like my bat mitzvah with my grandparents smiling at me. And then I realized I'm going to die and never pursue that dream.
Oh,
Empowering women. And so I said, okay, God, it's been a good life. You know, tell my parents, thank you. And some other voice came over me. It's what I now know is the goddess. And she said, oh no, you were put on this earth to empower women and they need you. And so I promised myself in that moment, I said, if I live, I promise I will pursue my purpose no matter what. And just at that moment, Orion, the man took my purse and he ran.
wow.
And so I survived that day. And I survived so that anyone listening to this and anyone who listens to my podcast or is in my community, you do not have to be robbed at gunpoint in order to finally say, I'm going to go for it. Because what happened after that was I just said, I don't know how this is going to happen, but I'm going to take one step. And for me, that was, you know what? I had been in corporate marketing. I'd been a vice president of marketing, making 6 figures, the whole thing. And I wanted some sort of education to be able to empower women. And I found positive psychology, the scientific study of happiness and human flourishing. I saw that there was a master's degree program at the University of Pennsylvania. I applied by the grace of the goddess. I got in. I feel like, what? So I got a master's degree in happiness from an Ivy League university. It still cracks me up. Like, what? It's like getting a degree in candy, And I left that 6-figure job and that vice president title and became a grad student again at 36 years old.
That's brave.
It was amazing. My dad said to me, that is the stupidest decision I've ever heard at the time. And I almost didn't then do, I was like crying and almost like, oh my God, I can't do it. I'm so stupid. Why am I doing this? But the goddess had spoken, it was like, no, you have to do this. And it turned out to be the best decision of my life. And from there, I have basically just decided every time my inner knowing knows I need to do something, whether it is to start my own podcast or it is to say to Sirius XM radio, you should give me my own show, or to, put a book out in the world, like I need to do it. Even when I'm scared shitless, it's like, we're still going to do it. We're just going to hashtag do the damn thing. And that's just like my life right now. And what I'm here to teach women to do, love yourself and live your purpose no matter what.
Wow. How did it start? How did you start helping women?
So I was in graduate school and I decide I want to teach. And so I looked up who was teaching the undergrad class in positive psychology. And I hunted her down and I offered to be her TA. And she's like, I don't even know if we're allowed TAs. I'm like, you don't have to pay me. I will get your coffee. I will do all your slides. I will do anything that you want me to do. I just want to do it. And she's like, all right. So turned out that semester, usually that class at Penn is taught by a PhD professor, but that professor that normally taught it was on sabbatical that year. So it turns out that they had put a postdoc student who didn't know positive psychology well teaching it. She let me teach half the classes myself. And I immediately now was a professor at Penn. It was this crazy thing.
Wow.
And I started telling all the students that I was a life coach, even though I wasn't yet a life coach. I always tell people the job you want to have, not the job that you currently have, right? So if you're out there and you're like, oh, but right now I'm an accountant, but I'm becoming a speaker or I'm starting an Etsy store. Like, you tell people the thing you're working toward, not the current thing. So at the end of class, one of the students came up to me. She said, I want you to be my coach. And she was my first client. And she stayed with me for 5 years. And then through her, I started saying, who else do you know who needs this? And then I reached out. I had a really good network in corporate. So I reached out back to my old corporate contacts. And I said, this is what I can speak on now. And one of them hired me. And I just kept in touch until another one hired me. Like, I once spoke at Progressive Insurance because I knew corporate people there. And after the first time I spoke, buzz went around all of Progressive Insurance. You have to listen to this woman speak. And then they brought me back like 5 more times. So like I said, once I was robbed at gunpoint, I just decided I'm doing this thing, right? I got this idea one day, you know what? I'm supposed to be on the radio. Like, I want to be on the radio. And this is before podcasts existed, or maybe they existed, but I didn't know about them yet. And so I was living in New York at the time and I started telling everybody, like, I want to be on the radio. I'm going to be on the radio. No, normally in the past, I would have not told people because I would have been afraid. I'm going to tell people my dream and they're going to check in on me like, hey, how'd that radio thing go? And I'm going to have to tell them I'm a loser and didn't end up on it. But once being robbed at gunpoint, I just changed my tune and I tell everybody my dreams. So most people are like, that's cool. You'd be awesome. Until one person said, hey, I know someone you should talk to. And she connected me with someone at Sirius XM radio who I hunted down, and I showed up at a coffee. Finally, she said, okay, I'll meet with you for coffee. And I said to this woman, I should have my own show. And here's why. I have my master's degree in happiness from Penn, and there's only 250 of us in the world who have it. And I'm going to bring on all these experts. And this woman looked at me and she said, Carin, you're a nobody. Literally, that's what she said.
Oh, nice.
Because I'm not Howard Stern. I don't have like a big following. I had no following. So I said, but I promise I can bring really good content. So it had been like a year of me hunting her down. And finally she said, all right, I'll put you on my morning show as a guest and we'll just see how you do. And so I went on to this woman's morning show on Stars Radio on Sirius XM. And after the first half hour in that show, the host of the show, Taylor Strecker, she said, want to come back next month? I'm like, absolutely. And so every single month I was on there for, I think, 5 years until the show was canceled.
It seems like you have this chutzpah, this daring personality. You're not afraid of rejection.
Here's the thing, Orion, I'm terrified of rejection.
Mm.
I am terrified of rejection. It is the thing that held me back for so many years. So from the time that I figured out I'm here to empower women until the time that I took the leap and went to grad school was 8 years.
Wow. Okay.
8 years. All of that was because I was so scared of rejection. That I was so scared people would think I was stupid. Nobody would want to listen to me.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Because it just seems like, when you tell your story, it seems like, oh, I was held at gunpoint and the next morning I taught at the university.
Well, then I got to change my story. Yeah. The next morning I taught at the university while I was pooping my pants because I was so afraid that I was going to fail and look stupid and be rejected. And I would love to tell people that 10 years later, and after being on national radio and the whole thing, that I am no longer have that fear. And I would be lying. Of course, I'm still totally afraid of rejection. I'm still afraid people won't like me, right? I still had that experience when I was in 5th grade.
So how do you deal with that? I guess feel the fear and do it anyways, but how?
So number one is self-compassion. So I've really taken to finding a way to tell myself it's normal. It's okay to be afraid. You can cry, and to love myself and hug myself, which is so much easier said than done. But I do a lot of talking to the little girl inside of me, which ends up that I do a lot of coaching on that as well. And just really I know, little Carin, I know you're afraid. And then I even will do exercises where I will have a 2-minute temper tantrum. As adults, we don't have temper tantrums anymore, but I will get the fear out. I will shake it out. I will scream, to the point where we had new neighbors move in next door and they knocked on the door thinking that my husband was abusing me. I'm he said to this new neighbor, no, this is just a thing my wife does. So I really work it through my body. and then I do a lot of mindset. Okay, what if it does fail? What's the worst that's going to happen? And if that happens, what's the worst? And if that happens, and can I handle it? And then I talk myself up. Okay, what are all the reasons that it will work or that it will be okay? And I have had failures. You probably have failures too doing this.
More than 2 at least.
Yeah. Oh my God, for
all
sure,
the time.
right?
Yes.
All the time. The first time I held a group program, you know how many people signed up? 0. And I ran to bed at the time. I was still living in New York in this 200 square foot apartment. I pulled the covers over my head. I didn't want to come out for 2 days. I ate a lot of Ben and Jerry's. I just was beating myself up, telling myself what a loser I was. And then this is why I love purpose so much.
Mm-hmm.
I took a deep breath and I'm okay, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And it was, I believe I have something that women need. I really I want to make a difference in women's lives. And so I would come back to that bigger purpose. And I came back to, I want to prove to myself that I can do it, and I want to know that I at least tried. And so I put myself back together. And the next time I ran a group program, you know how many people signed up?
How many?
0 again.
Aha. Yay.
And I had to go through the same process all over again and just keep going, okay, this is for purpose and you can handle it. And it's learning that I can put myself out there. I can be rejected and I'm not going to die.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Wow. For me, rejection is the biggest thing in the world. When I get rejection, I crawl into a ball and I just keep eating that Ben and Jerry's. It's hard for me to bounce back. And it seems like you made friends with your inner little girl and you become your best friend. You really speak kindly to yourself.
Yeah. And I'm working on it. I'm working on it all the time. All the time. I am a master beat myself upper and have been my whole life. I'm a recovering beat myself upper. And I just this week made a mistake and I was beating myself up like it was the world's biggest mistake, even though it was nothing. And then I had to go through the whole process again. And we can't wait for all that to go away in order to pursue our purpose. Because especially right now, I just feel never a time like this. The world, we've all been living through this pandemic. We've lived through a time of really imbalanced, distorted, toxic, masculine leadership.
It still does. Still is.
And what's needed, women are needed right now. I mean, if ever women's purpose was needed, it's now. And so we have to be the ones who keep coming back. And it's also why I do a lot of sisterhoods. Like at the end of the summer, thank God things are opening up and safely I can hold a retreat, which I haven't been able to hold in a long time. And
where are you going to hold it?
Are you ready, Orion?
Yes.
Are you sitting down?
Yes.
The Versace mansion.
What? Wow. Wow. Wow.
Nothing makes you feel like a goddess like being in the Versace mansion.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's in Italy?
It's in Miami Beach.
In Miami Beach. Oh, we just moved to Florida, to Miami.
You did?
We did.
Where are you?
I'm right now in Aventura. I'm in Miami. Basically, my address in Miami. We live in this really nice place. It's on the lake, and we see wild birds. And
oh my gosh! Okay, you and I have to talk totally offline because we spent 7 weeks in Miami this winter, and we're like, all right, we need to move here, but we were on Miami Beach, and we were like, we don't know what neighborhood to move into because Miami Beach, the schools aren't great, but I saw Aventura has great schools.
Yes. Yes. Wow.
Okay. Have a side conversation.
Back to the show. Thank you for being patient, our listeners. We're just really excited.
Yes.
It happens like that when you find somebody who's so aligned and so cool. You just want to connect with them.
Mm-hmm. I'm so excited to connect with you more. You have no idea. I'm like, oh my goddess, this is so perfect. So perfect.
And I like that you say, oh my goddess. That's pretty cool.
So, yeah, I mean, so you have the same thing around rejection, but look at you. You keep putting yourself out with the podcast. And
yeah, yesterday I had to deal with rejection. I'm doing this mastermind with this world famous vocal coach. He worked with the best of the best of the best, like all the familiar Hollywood Grammy Award winners, and he knows all of them. He worked with all of them. And so he's a really cool guy, and his opinion is really important to me. And we were working on a script, and I was struggling. And then I wrote something, and he wrote a criticism back, and I didn't show it in the mastermind. I didn't tell anybody, but I was crying. Mm-hmm. When I got this criticism, I was crying. My husband had to come and kind of like comment. I had this cry, just like mm-hmm. kind of cry.
Mm-hmm. You know it well.
Because that's what happens when you really admire someone. You really want their input. You really care about what they say. And I wanted to send an email saying, "Can I not participate today?" And just like a little kid throwing a tantrum. I don't want to play anymore. I want to go and just go hide. And I had to work through that and not send that email and look at this criticism. Like, is there a truth in this criticism? Like, what can I learn from that? How can I don't want to destroy the relationship. I'm like, this is the first time I got such harsh criticism, and maybe I needed that. I needed to see that this was something valuable. And there was a great gift in it with me handling what I perceived as a personal attack or rejection, which was not, but sometimes we have lots of stories in our minds. And I had to go through this whole journey, of course, not showing it to the group or even not letting my coach know that this was what I was going through, because this was me dealing with my own demons, with my own triggers, with my own insecurities. I had to look inside and be like, okay, in the past, this used to be my reaction a long time ago. And now I'm a grown up, and I'm going to look at like you say, you talk about purpose. What's the purpose of this? What's the intention behind this? And how can this affect what I'm giving to the world and make it better? So I wrote back, I deleted my first email, and I actually sat in the mastermind with a fake smile for a couple of hours until it became like real. And I was able to communicate, like, I calmed down. You know what? I also think that sometimes we just moved to Florida. There's so much going on in my life right now. And I'm from Israel, and there's so much going on in Israel right now. And I'm worried about my family. So having all that tension and having that criticism caught me off guard. And it was a great gift because I was able to cry and release all this pressure that I was holding in my body, trying to be strong. which was super helpful. And B, I learned a lesson. I learned how to elevate my state. I learned how to deal with this situation better. And I took the criticism. I learned how to take the criticism. It was a tough day. It wasn't easy. It was very good for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so beautiful. It's so inspiring to hear how you worked with that, because it's like you can receive criticism and not die.
Yeah.
And even more so, learn from it, right? Like ultimately, once that group program and I had 0 people sign up again, ultimately I had to say, okay, what's going on here? And I took a step back and I looked at my newsletter list. And at the time I had like 30 or 40 people on a newsletter list, which I now know is not enough people to have a group program. Right. And so I just wanted all A's. I just wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted other people to think I was perfect, right? Like I'm the youngest of 3. And I really grew up believing that if I did not do everything right and perfect, my parents wouldn't love me, because they would tell everybody that this is our perfect child. This is our perfect child. And so what you're saying, like criticism has been so hard for me too. And just learning, wait, I can breathe through it and it actually can become something good for me. And I know this is something that you talk about too. You talk about pain to power and I talk about pain to purpose, right? That like the hardest things that we go through actually can become the most purposeful and powerful things in our lives. It's just not easy to see it in the moment.
Yes, it's like a gift with the bow on the bottom.
Yeah, on the bottom.
Can't open the gift right now, but maybe a day, a week, a month, 3 years down the road, you can like, oh my God, here's a bow. And oh, this was actually my greatest gift.
Yes. It's actually something I love to work with women on around purpose, is really turning any of those experiences into our wisdom. Sometimes we can look back retroactively and see the gift. And I have found that a massive tool in healing. So a lot of people are familiar with post-traumatic stress disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And fewer people are familiar with something called post-traumatic growth, which is when we experience trauma or any sort of pain, finding the meaning, finding the redemption, finding that gift or that power in it. And we now know from psychological research that this is a very real thing that people experience, just like post-traumatic stress disorder. So when I work with women on discovering and living their purpose, a big piece that we do is around, what is the wisdom that you have gained from your hardest moments in life?
Mm.
Right? So did it give you courage? Did it? And we'll go incident through incident, because I find us women have been through a lot, right? Most of us have experienced some form of abuse in some way, whether it's verbal, emotional, physical, sexual, harassment.
Mm-hmm.
Many women have been betrayed or have been stepped on, paid less money, whatever it might be.
Yeah, if you had a room full of 1,000 women right now, they will all be nodding and saying, yeah, I can relate.
Exactly. And I actually was in a room once like that with one of my mentors. She asked Mama Regina Thomashower, she said, if you have been abused in any way, please stand. And I was in the front row and I turned around and nearly all 2,500 women were standing.
I always wanted to, I have many friends that studied with Mama Gina. I actually studied with Sheila Kelly.
Mm.
I went to many retreats with her.
Oh,
she's amazing.
One of her retreats is totally on my list.
Oh, she's like,
she's to die for.
Yeah.
She's so to die for. Oh my gosh. Yes. Sheila Kelly taught at one of the Mama Gina programs that I took.
Oh, nice. Yes. So I went to a whole retreat there, a few of them, maybe 5. And one of them was in Jamaica. And it was the first time where, I felt so good about myself. And I looked at the mirror. I was with a bathing suit and I looked at my tummy and I looked at my imperfections. And I was like, oh, I love this body and I accept her. And she's all, I saw perfection in all the imperfection. And this is me. This is me. Everything here. This is all beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's beautiful. It's beautiful. And that's really like, when I think about what we're here for, every single one of us. I think purpose, we've really confused it to be all about like, what's my job? What job am I supposed to have? But I really see purpose as coming down to three things: being, doing, and impacting. And the first step is being. And self-love is that first step of really coming to know who you are, what your beautiful superpowers are, what makes you unique, loving your body, seeing everything about you, the challenges that you've been through, the things that you don't like about yourself, seeing that all of that as beautiful and what is, and being your whole self in the world. And how much energy we as women frankly waste by hating on ourselves so much. Right? And so that it's like it all starts with the being. And it's just beautiful that you could look in the mirror and see that in yourself. That's not easy.
Not easy at all. No. I had times in my life where I looked in the mirror and I hated my reflection. I couldn't even look. Like I looked in the mirror and I started crying. Couldn't look at her. Didn't relate. Was mad at her, judged her.
Yeah.
Even hated her. So yeah, it was a journey for sure.
So powerful.
I want to ask you about motherhood. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Tell me a bit about that experience and how it affected you.
Yeah. So I wasn't even sure I wanted to be a mom. When I was young, I did. And then once I really started on my purpose journey, I was having cocktails or dinner or something with a bunch of friends who were also in positive psychology and coaches, and talking about how women are here to mother the world. And I said to them, when I'm 80, I want 1 million women to say I changed their lives. Much more than I want any one human to say that I was his or her mom. And so it was like a deep knowing, like, all right, I don't even know that I want kids. Maybe I don't. And then fast forward, I got married to my husband when I was almost 40, and he already had a son. And I was like, whatever, he has a son who was 10. Okay. No, he was 13 at the time. And we were in Italy on our honeymoon, and we'd had a couple glasses of wine, and we went back to our room, started fooling around. And I'm like, oh, what the heck? And we had been using condoms to that point. And I was like, what the heck? Let's just, And I got pregnant. Orion. I'm 40. I got pregnant. And then I was freaked out. What did I do? My career is just starting. I just started Purpose Girl. Like, what am I doing? I'm going to ruin my life. Well, then I started to get used to being pregnant. And 8 weeks later, I miscarried.
Oh.
Yeah. So that then began a 5-year journey to become a mom. And what that miscarriage gave me was the gift of knowing that I do want to be a mom.
Wow. Goosebumps.
Yeah. I've been in early menopause since 40. That's why it's pretty much a miracle that I got pregnant then. There's a long story I won't even get into, but I will say, thank the goddess for modern medicine. We had a baby when I was 45 last year.
Oh my God. Beautiful. Beautiful. Oh my God. I love you for that. That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
I say I admire you because this journey is not easy at all.
No.
It's so difficult. Do you do the shots and the hormones and all that shit?
All of it.
Oh.
Yeah. Including ultimately an egg donor.
Oh, wow.
And anyone who's been through this journey, or if you're curious, you could go onto my podcast and listen to me. I share my journey really openly about it.
I've done IVF too, and it was so hard.
It's so hard. And then we were down to one embryo. We only got one embryo. $40,000 later, we only got one embryo using a donor egg, a 26-year-old egg. And my lining wouldn't grow. And it seemed like, we had been through a year of, like you said, the shots and the whole thing and everything was wrong. They found I had an autoimmune situation. That's why I'd had 2 miscarriages in those 5 years. And anyway, there were so many things that went wrong. And I was down to this one embryo. And I know you're super into the goddess and the feminine, Orion. And what occurred to me is that there is no goddess, there's no feminine in the fertility process. you go into, I can't speak to your fertility clinic, but you go into my fertility clinic and it's beautiful, but it's like very clinical.
It's very clinical. Yes. Yes, it is.
Right. And so it's like, we have to have sex at a certain time. You take these shots.
It's very mechanic.
Implanting.
Yes.
And it's very mechanic. That's a great word for it. And everyone is stressed and unhappy in the waiting room, of course, because we would, none of us wanted to be there, right? We thought that we were going to have babies easily. They told us when we were 12 that if you open your legs, you're going to have a baby. None of us expected, right? None of us expected to be there. And it's like an unhappy mechanical clinical process. And I had this one shot, $40,000 later, we had one embryo, one shot. And I said, how do I bring the feminine to this? How do I bring the goddess to it? And so what I did was I held a women's circle at the fertility clinic the morning of my transfer. I asked the clinic, can I have a room for about a half hour beforehand? And I invited goddesses in my life. And they came, we went into this room. My best friend put rose petals all over the ground. They each brought a reading or a poem or something that they wanted to say to the baby. They huddled around my husband and I, each reading to the baby, we love you, we welcome you, we're here for you, we are your village. And then they showered us with rose petals and we danced.
Wow.
And then I went into my transfer and he took. And now I have a 10-month-old. And I'm 46 years old.
Beautiful.
Thank you. And there's more.
You can't see me, but I'm tearing up. Seriously. Oh my God. Wow.
And at some point, I want to work. It's so funny. I thought we would talk all about purpose, but this is like so juicy. At some point, I want to work with fertility clinics because I think that that's really a missing piece, the feminine.
Wow.
I don't know what that's going to look like, but it feels like it's really a missing piece and part of my purpose, right? Like I know I'm here to empower women to live their dreams, and some women's dreams are becoming a mom. And if you're having trouble with it, I do feel like there's something to bringing the goddess in.
Gee, beautiful. So beautiful. Wow. Carin, this is amazing. This is so beautiful.
Thank you. Oh, there's so much more to that. My baby almost died during delivery too. But I'm so happy to tell you he's healthy and happy. And again, anyone can hear all of that on the Purpose Girl podcast.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Yes, yes. Wow. Wow. And just in short, like, how does it feel being a woman that had a baby with your purpose?
Oh, yeah. No, thank you. That's right. That's what you originally asked me. And I got off on the story.
No, this was like, thank you so much for sharing and being so open and vulnerable with that. Because I know that it made me feel so happy for you. And I so appreciate how open you are with that.
You're so easy to talk to, Orion. You're so easy to talk to. It's so beautiful. I feel like we're totally having a conversation, not even being interviewed. I love it. I'm like, great. When are we meeting for coffee in Aventura? So I'm really proud of myself for how I am committed to all the roles of my life. So I see purpose not as a noun. I think this is one of the ways that we've gotten purpose all screwed up and has given us something called purpose anxiety, which most people I know have. That anxiety of like, what is my purpose? Or, oh my God, I'm afraid of rejection, so I can't live it. And I think it's because we've gotten screwed up that purpose is a noun. Like we're trying to think of purpose as, is it to be a teacher or is it to be a coach or is it to be what is the thing? And I see purpose as a verb or a series of verbs. Like for me, it's to inspire, to empower. For somebody, it might be to teach, to create. And you'll play many roles in that, right? Like most women I know are multi-passionate and want to do many things. So like I'm a coach, I'm a speaker. I just spoke at Amazon's International Women's Day conference. So I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, I'm a retreat leader, and I'm a mom. But my purpose is the same in all my roles. And my purpose is to inspire and empower. That's who I am, right? And so I'm really proud of how I'm doing new motherhood. It's messy and it's not easy, but I am committed to finishing my workday every day by either 2:30 or 3 o'clock, some days 2 actually. So anywhere from 2 to 3. And then the afternoons are my time with my baby.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Mama, his name is Shay. That's Mama and Shay time for us to play, for us to go on walks, for us to go for a run or to go do things together. We might go to the grocery store, whatever it is, that's my time. And what that's meant is really ensuring that I have enough support and that I have a village, right? So we have a wonderful, wonderful nanny who unfortunately is leaving us, and she works half-time. So it's not even full-time, right? Because I want those afternoons to myself to him.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband does a lot of, he wants some time with Shay also. So he has a couple mornings and then he can pick up other slack. I had to hire another person in my business, which I'm fortunate that I was, able to do, but there was no way that I would be able to be Purpose Girl and be mom without having more support in my business. And so there's a lot of trust. I'm going to be hiring another person in my business because I want to soak him up. I worked so hard to have this baby. I want to soak up every minute I can with him. And I want him to see that mom is a powerful woman. I want him to, and he can't understand this at 10 months, but I ultimately want him to see that women can do anything, that women are strong, that women are capable, and we deserve to have a seat at the table. I'm the breadwinner, the major breadwinner in our family. I want him to see that that is a thing. I want him to be proud of me. And I don't just want to tell him that he can go after his dreams. I want him to see me doing it and model after me.
Beautiful, yes.
So it's so not perfect. It's messy. It's ugly. It's spit up. Our nanny is sick today.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. It is. It's 100% beautiful. I'm just letting people know, it's 100% beautiful. And we're all figuring it out as we go. And our nanny called in sick today. And so I'm going to be doing a Facebook Live at 2:00 with him on my lap crying.
Oh, I'm going to watch it.
Do it. It's on the Purpose Girls Facebook group because that's also real life. We're doing a retreat in Paris because I want to move to Paris for a month in September. And so I'm going to do a retreat and he's going to be there. And I always had dreams that my baby would be on my hip while I'm leading a retreat. And you know what? We all want that. I think what I notice in my clients is we want realness and we want all of you. And so we don't have to pretend that being a mom isn't part of our purpose. It's all part of it. I love it when women whip out their boobs and they're breastfeeding and we're on a business call. That's doing life in the feminine. And it's so powerful.
It is. Carin, thank you so much. This was amazing. We are going to keep talking offline because you're such a wonderful, wow. I can't wait to get to know you more. And before we say goodbye for now, where can people find you, attend your Versace Castle retreat, read your books, listen to your podcast?
Oh, thank you. All the things. So go to purposegirl.com. And the best couple things to do there are you will find the Purpose Girl podcast there and find an episode that intrigues you, whether it's about the baby or something else or about purpose or how to find your purpose and go from there. Also sign up for my newsletter. That's every single week, I'm putting out tips and tricks about how to live your purpose, how to follow your dreams, how to be radiant and alive. And if you want even more, then on Facebook, join the Purpose Girls Facebook group. Purpose Girl is one word. And we're almost 4,000 women strong. And every day I post a prompt on there that you can journal about, you can think about. I do a Facebook Live every single week teaching. So just purposegirl.com will get you to everything. And I welcome anyone and everyone from your community, Orion, and you and I are having coffee in Aventura soon.
Amen. Thank you so much, Carin. This was awesome. And thank you, listeners. Remember to love yourself, commit to your purpose, and have a stellar life.
Thank you for joining me on my mission to light people up and change lives around the world. I hope today's conversation inspires you to step up, go after the life of your dreams, and be who you want to be. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go to stellarlifepodcast.com for show notes, transcripts, and other cool stuff. And please subscribe, review, and help spread the word by sharing us on Facebook and Twitter. Have a lovely day, and I'll catch you on the next episode.